Quantum mechanics, the theory that governs the microworld of atoms and particles, is bizarre, counterintuitive, and therefore dazzling and intriguing.
Quantum physics makes me so happy.
Yeah, I'm glad.
It's like looking at the universe naked.
This dazzling and intriguing nature perhaps leads to countless debates on the internet, which in turn has created one of the biggest myths in quantum physics, which is a cat can be both alive and dead at the same time.
Nice.
The argument is based upon the thought experiment proposed by the Austrian physicist Erwin Schrödinger, who probably never could have predicted that this experiment would attain internet meme status in the 21st century, although not in the outcome he desired. This thought experiment essentially suggests that the cat may be considered both alive and dead simultaneously while unobserved in a closed box as a result of its fate being linked to a random subatomic event that may or may not occur. We have to discuss the fundamental physical experiment that made Schrödinger devise this thought experiment first. And I mean what I said, it's a physical experiment that has actually taken place, unlike Schrödinger's thought experiment, which remains purely hypothetical, that has never ever taken place. The experiment involves shining light towards two thin, closely spaced slits and observing what sort of visual pattern on the screen on the other side. As long as your light is all of the same wavelength, you'll get a set of many light and dark bands, what we call an interference pattern, which is only distinct in waves. So at this point, we have pretty much proved that light demonstrates the wave behavior as well, proving that the once greatest and flawless Isaac Newton wasn't exactly right. Here's where things start to get bizarre. If we replace the light source from a laser beam with individual photons that constitute the laser beam and send the photons through one at a time, we still get the same interference pattern. This suggests that a single particle, such as a photon or an electron, can pass through two different slits simultaneously in the wave-like state rather than as a particle as it appears. Since we are sending one photon at a time, it implies that somehow the photon must have traveled across both slits, resulting in self-interference, as there were no other photons present to interfere with when it passed through the slits. This phenomenon, wherein particles exist in two states, such as occupying two locations at the same time, is called superposition. You think that's all? Not quite, because the most famously bizarre aspect of this experiment occurs when we attempt to measure precisely which slit each photon passed through. When we try to do that by, say, setting up a camera behind the slit, the interference pattern disappears. It's as if the photons know they're being observed, so they alter their behavior accordingly. It also suggests that the act of observation can significantly impact the outcome. So to address this peculiar and inexplicable phenomenon, numerous interpretations were proposed, and Schrödinger's cat, this thought experiment, was born at that time, but only as a critique to one of these interpretations, the observer-driven interpretation, or what we call the Copenhagen interpretation. Schrödinger wanted to use his thought experiment to highlight the absurdity of this interpretation by illustrating the cat being both alive and dead at the same time. Because how can the cat be both alive and dead at the same time? It's fully contradictory and just totally illogical.
Excuse me.
So Schrödinger never came up with thought experiment to test quantum mechanics, nor did he intend to convey any idea that the reality depends solely on conscious observers.
You're a fool.
We come across this type of misconception because there's so many science fiction writers, advertisers who draw inspiration from quantum physics. It's very important for us to remember that Schrödinger's cat was never ever intended to demonstrate how the world really functions. It's an idea to illustrate the problems Schrödinger saw in the Copenhagen interpretation, as exactly what constitutes observation is not well defined. If we consider conscious beings such as humans as the only valid observers, then we might find ourselves with a cat that is both alive and dead simultaneously, which is just impossible. The other thing we need to bear in mind is that a cat is nothing like an individual photon. It's much bigger, more complex, so any coherence required for superposition among the trillions of atoms that comprise the cat is extremely short-lived. So next time, when you come across the same cat again, whether on the street or on TV that is purposely linked to the reality we live in, or to us as observers, you know what's going on.
At this moment, our relationship exists in two mutually contradictory states. Until you either do not go or go to Will Wheaton's party, you are simultaneously my friend and not my friend. I'm characterizing this phenomenon as Schrödinger's friendship.